Hello, everybody. Dallisa Hocking here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Spirit and Spark YouTube channel. I am delighted to bring Nura Rachelle on to today's episode. We're going to be looking at the astrology that's affecting us here in December and what's coming for the holidays. And she's actually even going to pull up the astrological chart of Christmas. So I anticipate there's going to be a lot of information that comes up. This is one of those videos I feel like grab pen, grab paper, and if you're enjoying it, give it a thumbs up and make sure you're sharing it with your inner circle so they can participate as well. Before I turn it over to Nura to bring up the astrological charts that we'll be diving into today, I just want to tell you a little bit more about her and her work. She is a professional astrologer. She actually pulls knowledge and wisdom from a couple of different branches of astrology, including evolutionary, esoteric, and traditional Western astrology. She integrates energy work, yogic principles, and intuitive skill building in her consulting and her educational work. She actually pulled a couple tarot cards too that she will likely be sharing with us as we talk about the energy today. And embodiment of purpose and everyday soul realization is at the core of what Nura offers to her clients. I have heard people describe Nura as warmth and love and compassion. She has a way of talking about astrology and how to work with the energy in a way that I don't often come across, which is why I keep inviting her back to do stuff with me because we all need that Nura hug every once in a while. And her website is nurarachelle.com. I'm going to include it in the description below. So just click on that link for more information and to book a session and take classes with Nura. You can also find her on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok under Nura Rachelle. All right, Nura, I'm going to turn it over to you. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so good. And I feel like I received a hug hearing all of those kind words. So thank you. I'm really excited to share about the holidays. I'm also Sagittarius, as I know you are, Dallisa. So this is my solar season, and I always feel a lot of inspiration, encouragement, motivation around these times, which I think is always on demand. So
Absolutely. I'm going to put myself kind of in the background. I'm going to have you take over, and then we'll regroup after we look at these charts and talk about those tarot cards, and we'll see what questions come up. So I'll let you take it from here.
awesome. Thank you. So I think starting with the tarot cards actually makes the most sense. So I pulled some cards with the intention of what will be of highest service, just energetically overview for the whole second half of December and leading into the holiday season. So Wheel of Fortune came up, as did Temperance. So two major arcana cards. Wheel of Fortune, there's a lot of things that we can't control, but we can decide to hang out at the center. And if we maybe want to meander to the edge of the wheel because we're curious and explorers, right? That Sagittarian energy is about widening our worldview and asking the question, what else is possible? Just know that there's always a chance, an opportunity to come back to the center place, and then you won't feel so kind of whipped around in the wind and kind of like, in the spirals of chaos and confusion. And Temperance is always, I think, a balance card, inviting in self-care, nourishment. I like to remind people that at the winter solstice, it's ironic because in our culture, in our society, we tend to be busy, and even leading up to that point, we're like, buying gifts and making plans and like prepping dinners and kind of all over the place. And it's fun in a lot of ways, but it's also kind of a road to burnout if you take on too much. So I think that this Temperance card is an invitation to find your moments of slowness, find your moments of, I'm just, like she's doing here, I'm going to just drink some water in the quiet. I'm going to release the stimulation. And on the winter solstice is actually the time of deepest invitation inward, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, where it's the fewest hours of light in the day, longest night. And there's this invitation to almost go in and rest so that you are prepared to come back in the spring. And it's kind of different than what we're primed for in our culture. So it doesn't mean you have to, cancel all your plans and stay home and meditate in a cave. You don't have to. I mean, some people might want to, but something I do, for example, is kind of have a playlist handy. Have things that I know I'm like, I can kind of immediately get into a frequency that calms me, that's easeful, that's relaxing. And I also have some mantras and some affirmations that I'll use to kind of bring myself back into center. Um, really centered on calm, that I can just go and look at myself in the mirror. Like maybe I'm at a party, but I'll just take a minute and go to the bathroom, maybe take a few more extra minutes in there and just be with myself and remind myself of what I'm doing and why I'm there, and that it's really all about connection and hanging out with people we love. It's also a time of spiritual renewal. And if we look at the astrology, there's a lot of indicators of this spiritual renewal. Without going too deep into it, Neptune has been retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and that's been a big energy of kind of this dance between clarity and confusion. It's been going on for a while, but at the beginning of December, December 3rd, Neptune stations direct. And when Neptune stations direct, a lot of times the energies that we have felt really confused by, and it's also Pisces, so this is like the ocean of consciousness, the collective unconsciousness as well. We start to feel, oh, I'm making breakthroughs, I'm understanding, and even if I don't know everything, I'm leaning a little bit more into that energy of trust, that I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it, and I don't need to grasp anything, and it's okay to not know. It's okay to embrace the mystery, and that in and of itself I think is very spiritually renewing. Also, Queen of Pentacles. This is going to be the last card. And I think her advice, her wisdom is focused on what's yours. She's hanging out, looking at her own pentacle. She's looking at what she can influence. And from that space, she's very clear on what she's creating and what she's contributing, which is a very big energy, given that we've been working with the Venus meta goddess in Capricorn since January of 2022. And I'm going to share a little bit about that more briefly in a moment. So I want to go in chronological order here, just to kind of keep everybody with us. So a big shift that we have is December 20th, Jupiter re-entering Aries. So Jupiter every year stations retrograde for about 4 to 5 months. And this year he had entered Aries earlier in the year and then stationed retrograde and moved all the way back into Pisces. And so December 20th, he's officially re-entering Aries, there to stay through into 2023. And Jupiter in Aries, this young cardinal fire, it's about starting new things. It's about letting your motivations and those desires that maybe they don't make full sense, but you just do it because you want to do it. You create it because it inspires you. That tends to be what happens with Jupiter in Aries. And you maybe want to think back to earlier in 2022, where maybe you had some creative ideas and you were going with it and you were feeling inspired, but then all of a sudden when Jupiter stationed retrograde, you kind of came back in and maybe had to refine the vision. Maybe you felt like the wind was taken out of your sails a little bit and you kind of had to ask the questions of, is this the thing that I want to create? Is this the energy that I want to move forward with? So when Jupiter re-enters Aries, we might feel like, oh, I can pick it up again. I can pick it up and start running again. And this is usually a nice time too to be preemptively thinking of New Year's intentions. So what are those things that you want to create, that you want to put your energy into, that are desire fueled and authentic and also connected with authentic will? Because Aries has strong affinity with the solar plexus chakra, which is our willpower, our seat of our will. And is it your will? Or is it somebody else's will? You can also ask the question, is it divine will? Is it what you came here to do? Is it what you came here to be and contribute? So that's a big energy here. And that being centered right at Christmas, people might feel very excited. People might feel very stimulated around you. So this is a great time, spark up conversations around like, what are you passionate about? I think this is a great way to get to know people too, especially if you're a little bit more introverted or socially awkward. If you know this is going on in the transits, you can sort of plan some questions. Just ask people what they're excited about. Ask people, what are you celebrating? What are you motivated to create? And just let that kind of take you where you want to go. Okay, so I will shift into just a few days later. We're going to have the new moon. And nope, that's not what I want to do. Let's close that. We'll start again. New moon in, oh no. Sorry for my snafus. Okay. December 23rd, new moon in Capricorn at 1 degree. 1 degree is an Aries degree. So interesting. We're talking about Capricorn. We were just talking about Jupiter entering Aries, but now we have the new moon at 1 degree, which is an Aries degree. There's something we're pioneering around what we're building. And here we are with all of this Capricorn energy. I mentioned before how we've been working with the Venus meta goddess in Capricorn since January 2022, and that will be true all the way until August of 2023. But she's right about at that reconnecting with the same degree point that she was when she began this cycle. It was 18 degrees Capricorn, but we're reapproaching that. And so this is also a really good time to take stock, take inventory of what has worked for you over this past year. Every new moon is a great time to create space. So a lot of energy is sort of leaving, settling, but it's also the beginning of something new. And what are the new things that you're creating that will contribute to a stronger foundation for your life, and especially where you have Capricorn? So what house you have Capricorn in, there's going to be just an invitation to, I think this Queen of Pentacles energy comes back in, like focusing on what's yours. What are you building? What are you contributing? And is it practical? Is it long-term sustainable? And the energy of that, this is December 23rd, happening right around Christmas. People might feel pretty introspective. So this is actually a great time to pull in those sort of Jupiterian questions of like, what are you passionate about? You might, in that way, be sort of the emissary of sort of divine inspiration, because not everybody's always aware of like, oh, there's a new moon going on. Oh, Jupiter just stationed or moved into Aries. You could kind of do your light work in that way. And it's not like you're having to transmit information to them. You're just asking them questions around what they're building and what they're excited about. And I think that is kind of our way of being the change, being the revolution, right? It's just asking people what's on their heart and mind, and letting them respond to you. So that's a good strategy in general. Chiron is also direct. So Chiron, again, is one of the celestial bodies that stations retrograde every year. And so he's stationing direct in Aries. So Aries is all about new identity. And it coming through, again, that willpower. So who is it that we've been becoming in the collective sense? So people might feel a little bit like, oh, wow, there's this whole new me. And you might be feeling that for yourself. Like, who is this new version of me? We're constantly up leveling and getting upgrades and expanding in our capacity. And we've all been going through some pretty immense healing journeys. So Chiron stationing direct, I think, is bringing in that healing journey of look at how far you've come. Look at all that you've healed. I think this is a really great time to connect with people and just give them a hug and just say, like, you know, we've had our differences. Oh, my Canadian just came out there, you know, we've had our differences. Let's hug it out, you know, let's have those healing conversations. A lot of times when Chiron is retrograde, the healing is internal, but him stationing direct, it brings the healing energy external. So everything that's been bubbling underneath the surface for individuals might come out. So depending on people's level of healing and what they've been willing to do, you might get a few surprises. And so just being prepared for that, because everybody's different in how they process. So the external processors who maybe haven't done the internal work, you know, they might have a story to share. So if you're prepared for that, also holding healthy boundaries, you know, you might be pleasantly surprised with just how much people have healed around you, and how that it can also be very supportive for your relationships. I've been noticing that a lot too. People who have previously felt really polarized and like they can't even communicate with each other, they're, you know, making amends and coming back together. So I feel like this Christmas is very much an opportunity for that. Okay, so Christmas Eve, this is a special day in general, because you know, your inner child is probably like just bursting at the seams of excitement. I know I always loved Christmas Eve almost more than Christmas Day because of the anticipation energy of it. And and almost like, oh, you can't open your presents if you celebrate Christmas that way until the next day. So like we just get to be in the excitement of hanging out by the fire and, you know, reading stories and things like that. And I realized, oh, well, that's the part that I enjoy even more than receiving gifts. How interesting. So that's a factor here. So this December 24th, we are going to have a Venus gate. And so without going too deep into this, because I do have other content on this if you'd like to reach out, and I can kind of lead you to some resources. But every month, Venus and the moon form a conjunction. And while Venus is either in a morning star phase or an evening star phase, it will create a gate that corresponds with a chakra. And she's also at December 2nd, she rises as evening star. So now you can actually see her after the sun sets in the evening. And she's that evening star. And this is her first gate that she's making in the evening star phase. So her first moon Venus conjunction, and it's at 17 degrees Capricorn. And this is 1 degree away of where she began her meta goddess cycle at 18 degrees January 2022. So this is a really fascinating one to me. The first gate in the evening star phase corresponds with the root chakra. So now I'm thinking, oh, okay, Queen of Pentacles coming in again. What is the story around money? What is the story around survival, belonging, all of the resources that you have to live the life that you came here to live? All of this is invoked when we talk about the root chakra. And so that Venus gate, this is a really beautiful time for really the whole month after this point. 28, 29 days until Venus and Moon come together again, we'll be healing and clearing and purging any energy in the root chakra, but then we'll also be sort of reclaiming what is ours. So a lot of times in the evening star phase, we start to receive again. And so this might be a time where you maybe receive surprise resources, or maybe you've created more clarity around what you're creating. So now you're almost maybe willing to launch those programs, for example, if you're in business or in your job, like you're kind of climbing the ladder, you're getting that promotion, like things that you've actually been working for a long time, you're starting to reclaim them. You're reclaiming your root is essentially the story here. So this is a really exciting time, I think, and it'll probably feel maybe more hopeful in the economic sphere than we have been. I know there's a lot going on, and I don't want to go too deep into that. I'm not necessarily an economic astrologer, but I'm an observer. And all of the fear that's been going on in relation to the root chakra, it almost seems like at this Christmas, those things might still be present, but I think the general energy of the collective will be a little bit more focused on what their sphere of influence is, what they can do to be safe and secure, and also that sense of belonging in their community. So this is a really great time, just the Christmas season in general, to connect with your people and know that you foster security through community. Okay, and now our last chart is the Christmas chart. And here we have the moon at 7 degrees Aquarius. I always like to know where the moon is because it shows us the mood and what is likely to be the emotional tone of the day. And so the moon in Aquarius is a little bit more non-attached. So there might be less of the sort of excitable energy, but that could be nice for reflection, nice for this sort of loving non-attachment. So the way I'm almost picking it up energetically and combining it with the astrology here, it's like maybe leading up to December 24th and leading up to Christmas Eve and even earlier, we're feeling really excited with that Jupiter entering Aries, and we're like opening up and sharing a lot with people. And then maybe on Christmas Day, we're like, okay, wait, did I share too much? Do I need to pull back? That might be true for some people, but I guess my only thoughts around that would be just maintain your authenticity, just be truthful and be you, and know that you can never really make a mistake from that place. And it's a beautiful opportunity to, I would say, mend relationships from this place of kind of higher self-awareness, it feels like. Of course, the sun will be in Capricorn for this Christmas chart, Venus, Mercury, Pluto, all in Capricorn. So again, still a lot of emphasis on resources. And maybe if you wanted to do a practice of gratitude journaling And there's a lot of ways to do this. I've seen different people say you should do a gratitude journal every day and write down 5 things you're grateful for, and maybe 5 things that you're grateful for that have not yet arrived, right? Great practices. I would say write down like 100 things on each list. Like let's take this, let's expand this out as wide as possible, because that also corresponding with the Venus gate in the root chakra is actually going to pull that to you, because Venus is magnetism. So you'll pull to you what it is that you're focusing on, what your energy is. She's essentially the manifesting principle in the chart. So that will be really important. Mars is also still retrograde in Gemini. And so we still have the quote unquote problems of the world, right? They didn't just magically go away, but hopefully we can kind of be living in this parallel structure with our communities, with our friends and families, to create these bubbles of safety, joy, happiness, love, all the things that we want to feel, all the things that we want to create more of, and send that love out, send it out into the world, send it out to the people and the causes that mean a lot to you. And that feels like it can also go a long way around healing polarities. So that's what I have prepared.
I'm glad I just stepped out of the way because I knew that you would have all kinds of delicious information to share, which you did, and I took a plethora of notes. There are a couple things that come to mind that I thought we could discuss. I know you mentioned Aries a few times. You mentioned Capricorn as well. What signs do you feel like will be the most affected? I know you pulled charts for December 20th through the 25th. Is it going to be Aries and Capricorn, Sun, Ascendant more than others? Or who do you think is going to be feeling this the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the cardinal signs in general. So Aries and Libra, as well as Cancer and Capricorn. So if you have those Sun, Moon, Rising, or if you know that you have it strong in your chart otherwise, those will be really big. And the cardinal signs are all about the identity around leadership. So who you are as a leader. And that can look a lot of different ways, being a leader in your own life. But it feels a lot like if you have strong cardinal energy, you're really being initiated into leadership in some way. And so when these transits come up, they do sometimes create a challenge around that, or they just illuminate the already existing challenges. And you just get an opportunity to kind of rise up and confront them, especially with the sun being in Capricorn. It illuminates, it shines the light on what are the Capricorn lessons that we're learning. And I think of Capricorn so much as the wise elder as well, and also honoring tradition and thinking about the past 7 generations and the future 7 generations. And then here we are in the middle. And what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we take that level of responsibility that we tend to associate with Capricorn, but taking it with levity, with lightness? Like, it doesn't have to be a burden. It can be, oh, I'm just joyfully picking up this responsibility because that's what I'm here to contribute.
Wow. Yeah. And there are some folks that just heard you say that and go, well, I don't know if I've got Capricorn in different spots in my chart. So Nura does sessions. It's all good. I'm including the link below because this is, if you're hearing this today and you're like, God, this is really striking a chord, it probably would be helpful to have an astrologer like Nura take a look at where this is showing up in your own chart. So thank you for that. When you were talking about December 20th and 23rd, what came to mind, because you were talking about all of this stimulation, on December 20th, and then, more kind of crafting on the 23rd. So what I was hearing was, ooh, this is a great time to write down the things that you want to manifest and create a vision board or a visioning kind of activity or ritual around it. So does that make sense with those dates? If somebody wanted to circle dates on their calendar to do this, would the 20th and the 23rd be the dates that you suggest?
Absolutely. And also because the winter solstice is happening in there too, so something that my friends and I have done is actually take that time to create a list of all the things that you maybe wish you had created over the year, but you didn't. So acknowledging the past, but then also acknowledging what you'd like to create and move forward, but not necessarily feeling like you have to do them all at once. The practice is really like maybe take them on, write them all on little pieces of paper like this, all on separate pieces of paper, put them somewhere. And then you just choose one at a time as the weeks go by, maybe one per week. And then you're addressing them so that you're not kind of overextending yourself at a time when you're really meant to be resting, but you still take advantage of the visioning so that, oh, these are my plans that I'm laying the foundation for the future.
I love that idea because as you say that, I picture like having a bowl, like a fish bowl, right? And you take the piece of the paper, maybe you create 52 and you put all of them in the bowl, and starting the first week in January, you just pick one out for the week ahead. I love that. I love that. Great idea. The last thing I have on my list is you mentioned that you like doing affirmations and mantras and the root chakra, which I think is a great suggestion. I personally like the app Insight Timer, and you can go on there and type in, guided meditation for the root chakra. And you can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You don't have to go on there and meditate for hours for it to be effective. But I love that we have the root chakra to focus in on as we move through this energy. So that's incredibly helpful. When you think about the power of words and affirmations and what we could potentially align ourselves with in regards to calling in an affirmation to work with or an intention to work with, is there one that comes to mind that you feel may be really suited or aligned with the energy that we're experiencing this month?
Yeah, it's a great question. I am very much around knowing that I'm fully equipped. So especially if fear comes up, fear of loss, for example, I use the affirmation, I am fully equipped for the divine plan of my life, and I can regenerate that. If I did it once, I could do it again. So it creates this sort of comfort and trust and safety within myself that even if I lost everything tomorrow, I know at least what I did to get here. So I could do that again. That really helps me. And you could kind of interchange words if you like. I really love the reminder that I'm supported by my guides, by my higher self, by the divine. I also view the planets as divine emissaries. So knowing that you're supported and you're not really doing it by yourself, I think also really helps. And you mentioned, doing guided meditations for the root chakra. There's also solfeggio frequencies I love to listen to, or binaural beats where you can search things that are directly connected to the root chakra. Connecting with the color red, also eating red foods and what helps you to stay rooted and grounded. And you could essentially tackle this from every area, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that's where I think that's temperance right there, getting it from all of the angles.
Yes. Can you please do us a favor and say that affirmation again?
I am fully equipped for the divine plan of my life.
It hits on like all cylinders when you say it. I have chills going up my body. So I know that people heard that the first time and said, say it again, So I have one that I often say, I am capable of solving any problem. Because I found I was trying to solve problems that didn't exist. And so I would spend time and energy and bandwidth like, okay, well, if this happens, then I'll do this. And it's like, just trust in the unfoldment of it all. Yeah. Amazing. And I think that affirmation is so appropriate for the holiday season that we find ourselves in. It can be a highly emotional time of year. And I hope that if people are feeling a bit isolated or they're feeling maybe a bit introspective to the point where they've even felt like a hermit, right? That this discussion today and you pointing out the beautiful energies that we're working with, my hope is that everybody hears the messages and reaches out to people, reaches out their hand, makes a phone call that maybe they haven't made in a while. I've found that when I've experienced things like this in the past where I know I need to say something to somebody. Maybe it's that part you said, like making amends, apologizing, forgiveness and grace as themes, right? I feel it bubble up I'm like, oh, I know I need to say this. But you kind of work yourself up so much that you question, like, do I do this? Do I not do this? But what I found is once you say the things that are on your heart, it just feels like this beautiful wave of the ocean rinsing over you, and the energy feels like it has a sensation of rebirth in a lot of ways. And some of the notes I wrote down that you shared, Nura, were that there's going to be this natural energy that shows up that allows us this opportunity to maybe forgive ourselves even, but to also look to see what are those conversations that maybe have been stirring around in the back of our minds that now we can come to the table in a loving way and extend that grace outwards as well.
Absolutely. And you said it so well. The Chiron stationing direct in Aries and the Jupiter re-entering Aries. A key word for Aries is self-trust, and also really trusting your own instincts, trusting your own timing. And you also pulled in the words compassion and grace. And that reminds me, I have this statue of Kuan Yin and made of pyrite. And so I use this in my office to keep myself focused. And she's a bodhisattva. You might want to do some searching around her, but she's a bodhisattva. She's really goddess of mercy, goddess of compassion and forgiveness. There's so much around her story that if you read, you're like, wow, I don't know if I would have done what she did. She's that compassionate. And that energy of being a bodhisattva, it's like you could have transcended certain circumstances or situations, but you choose to stay in them, or you choose to enter the underworld out of a such an immense love for the people around you, or such an immense love for humanity that you choose to stay. Right? Being a bodhisattva, you could be enlightened, you could be over here in nirvana, but you're choosing to share your energy and share your love with people. And I feel like that is such high service. And again, doing that with balance, right? If you tend to be on the other side of the spectrum, like an out of control healer, and you just want to be healing everybody, doing Reiki out in the square, maybe we get to pull back a little bit. But if I am simply, just by me showing up, I transmit so much love in the room. Just me being there is a gift. I don't even have to say something all the time. And I feel like that's part of that loving grace and compassion and mercy that Kuan Yin holds.
Absolutely. It's perhaps pausing for a moment before you enter a room this holiday season and ask, what frequency am I bringing in to the group that I am entering now? What do I want the frequency to be? What is my intention? And like you said, you don't even have to say anything. If you're carrying that frequency within you and that's what you want to sit with and be with, it will emanate through the entire group and the physical space that you find yourself in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. Nura, I know you teach classes, you've got private sessions, nurarachelle.com. I've included it below with all your social media links as well. Is there anything else you want to tell people, or where you want them to connect with you at?
I'm also on Instagram and on YouTube, and I do like to put out weekly updates, just giving the energy of the week ahead. So that's a great place to just kind of get refreshed. And I'm a Sagittarius, so naturally teaching comes out in everything that I do. Even if I'm trying to make it not teachy, it becomes teachy. So it's a great place to learn. I think just by being in my space, you will learn a lot. And really, I think that's it. I'm just so excited to share this work. It's my high honor to be an interpreter of these sacred mysteries. And I believe that we're all astrologers in some way. If you know where the sun and moon are, you're an astrologer, right? It's all about reading energy and then making the connections and really, I think, embodying it. How do you use it in a practical way in your everyday life? So I'm so grateful to be able to share here. Thank you so much, Dallisa, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Nura Rachelle. Everybody, if you enjoyed this video, which I trust that you did, please make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you feel called to do so, share this video with a few people. If you feel like it's going to help them see the holiday season in a beautiful, graceful way, I invite you to please share it with them. Encourage them to watch it and to participate in the comments below. And let us know, what do you think about the holiday season? And are you going to be doing the fishbowl with all of your goals and what you intend to manifest and check off of your list in 2023. Nura Rachelle, thank you again, and I hope to be seeing you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.